Hidden Case Archives.
At 7 minutes past 9 in the morning, her phone buzzed on the kitchen table. A single message from a woman who had already been missing for 14 hours. The screen lit up with 3 words that should have been impossible, and the people who loved her would spend the next year trying to understand how a ghost could text from beyond the dark. Her name was Maren Vale. She was 26 years old, and she had lived her whole life in a small mountain town in northern Idaho. It was the kind of place where everyone waves at every passing truck, where the diner knows your order before you sit down, where nothing bad is ever supposed to happen. Maren was the one who remembered everybody's birthday. She left handwritten notes in her little sister's lunchbox. She called their mother every Sunday at 6 o'clock, without fail. People said she had a light in her. None of them knew how soon that light would seem to vanish into the dark. For the last 2 years, Maren had been dating a man named Lee. He was quiet, careful, the type who always paid in cash. Their friends thought they were happy, but in the weeks before that October night, something had shifted in Maren. She'd grown quiet. She stopped posting photos. She started parking her car facing the road, like she might need to leave fast. Her sister noticed. Maren brushed it off. "Just tired," she said. "Just work." But Nora would later remember one strange thing. In early October, Maren had asked her, out of nowhere, a question. "If I ever disappeared," she said, "how long would you wait before you looked for me?" The last ordinary night of her life was a Tuesday in late October. Cold and clear, the kind of night where your breath hangs in the air like smoke. Maren finished her shift at the bookstore where she worked downtown. She locked the front door at 8. She sent her sister a photo of the empty street and a single word, "quiet." Then she climbed into her old blue sedan and drove toward home. The road was 12 minutes long, a straight shot along the river, a left at the old grain silo. She had driven it 1,000 times. She never arrived. By 10 o'clock, Maren hadn't answered her sister's goodnight text. By 11, the messages stopped showing as delivered. They just sat there, gray and silent. By midnight, Nora was standing alone in their shared driveway, staring at an empty parking space where a blue car was supposed to be. She called Maren 41 times. Each one went straight to voicemail. The recorded voice was so warm, so alive, that it made the silence afterward feel even louder. Nora didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window and waited for headlights that never came. At first light, Nora called the police. A small department, 3 officers total. They told her what they tell everyone. Adults are allowed to leave. Maybe she needed space. Maybe she'd be back by lunch. But Nora knew her sister. Maren would never go quiet on a Sunday call. She would never leave their mother to worry. So Nora started driving the river road herself, slow, scanning the shoulder, the guardrails, the dark water below. She found nothing. No car, no skid marks, no sign that Maren Vale had ever made it home. The town was beginning to wake up to a nightmare. And then, at 7 minutes past 9 that morning, it happened. Nora was sitting at the kitchen table when Maren's name lit up the screen of her phone. A text message. "For Maren." Nora's hands shook so hard she almost dropped it. The message was 3 words long. "I'm okay, don't worry." For one shining second, Nora felt the whole world come back to life. Her sister was alive. Her sister had texted, but then she looked at the timestamp, and the relief drained out of her like cold water. Because the message had been sent at 7 minutes past 9 that morning, and Maren's phone, the phone that supposedly sent it, had been missing for over 12 hours. Where was Maren when she typed those words? And why did the message feel less like a comfort and more like a goodbye? Nora called the police back immediately. Now they listened. A search team formed by noon. Volunteers in orange vests walked the riverbank in a long, slow line. Divers went into the cold water near the bridge, and just before sunset, one of them surfaced holding something small and black. A phone, in a clear plastic bag, weighed down with a rock, wedged beneath the rocks at the bottom of the river. They pulled it out. They dried it off. They powered it on, and the lock screen showed a photo of 2 sisters laughing on a beach. It was Maren's phone, the same phone that had sent a message at 9 that morning, except this phone had been underwater, switched off, sealed in plastic, for at least half a day. It could not have sent anything, which meant someone else had. The detective stared at 2 facts that could not both be true. A message sent at 9 in the morning, and the only phone that could send it, sealed and sunk beneath a freezing river. Either the timestamp was a lie, or the phone in the bag was a copy, or someone, somewhere, was holding a second device, typing in Maren's name, pretending to be her. Nora read those 3 words over and over until they stopped looking like English. "I'm okay, don't worry." They weren't comfort. They were a clue, and whoever sent them wanted the search to stop before it ever truly began. That night, the police pulled security footage from the bookstore and the gas station on the corner. The grainy video showed Maren locking the door at 8, exactly as she'd said. They watched her walk to her blue sedan. They watched the headlights flick on, and they watched the car pull out and turn, not toward home, but the other way, toward the mountains, toward the long dark roads that led out of town. Maren had lied about where she was going, or someone had made her turn. The last clear image was her taillights shrinking into the night, until the dark swallowed them whole. The investigation started where these things often do, with the person closest to her, Billy, the boyfriend. When detectives arrived at his house, he was calm. Too calm, some would later say. He told them Maren had left his place around 7 at night, that they'd had a quiet dinner, that nothing was wrong. But the bookstore footage proved Maren was at work until 8, not at his house. His timeline didn't fit. When they pressed him, he changed his story. They'd argued, he admitted, about money, about her wanting to move away. He said she'd been talking for weeks about starting over somewhere new, somewhere no one knew her name. The detectives wrote it all down, and they wondered if the man who lied about dinner might be lying about everything. They searched Billy's truck. They searched his garage. In the bed of his pickup, they found a length of rope and a tarp still wet from something. For 2 days, the whole town was certain the boyfriend did it. People stopped going to his streets. His photos spread online. But then the lab results came back. The tarp was wet with engine oil, not blood. The rope was for hauling firewood, exactly as he'd said. And his phone records placed him at home, miles from the river, during the only window when Maren could have vanished. Billy wasn't a killer. He was just a frightened man who'd lied because he was scared of looking guilty. The first suspect collapsed, and the case slid back into the dark. So the detectives widened the circle. They spoke to a co-worker from the bookstore, a man named Dell, who'd closed with Maren many nights. Dell told them something no one else had. In the last month, Maren had been getting strange calls. She'd step into the back room to take them, voice low, door shut. Once, Dell said, he'd heard her say a single sentence through the wall, "Please just leave me alone." When he asked her about it, she smiled and said it was nothing, a wrong number. But Dell didn't believe her. He'd seen her hands shaking as she hung up. Someone had been frightening Maren for weeks, and no one had known to ask why. The phone records told the rest. For 2 months, Maren had been receiving calls from an unregistered number, a burner. The detectives traced it as far as they could, and it led to a man Maren had met online that summer. A stranger named Casey, who lived 3 hours away. On paper, he looked perfect for it. He'd messaged her constantly. He'd shown up once in town, uninvited. He told a friend he was, in his own words, in love with a girl who didn't understand him yet. When detectives knocked on his door, he went pale. He asked if she was okay, and then he asked the question that stopped the room cold. Did she finally use the plan? Is that what plan? They asked, and Casey looked at the floor. Casey told them everything. Yes, he'd been obsessed. Yes, he'd called too much, shown up where he shouldn't. But in their last conversations, he said, something had changed. Maren had stopped sounding scared of him. She'd started asking him questions. Strange ones. How do you delete a digital trail? How do you send a message later, on a timer? How does a person simply disappear and never be found? Casey thought she was writing a story. He swore he never touched her. And his alibi held. He'd been at work, on camera, 3 hours away, all night. Another suspect gone. But he'd left the detectives something far more important than guilt. He'd left them a word. Timer. That single word changed the entire case. The detectives went back to the message. "I'm okay. Don't worry." Sent at 7 minutes past 9 in the morning from a phone that was sealed in plastic at the bottom of a river. They'd assumed someone else sent it. But what if no one did? Modern phones can schedule a message to send itself, hours or even days later, automatically, the moment the device touches a signal. Maren's phone had been switched off and sunk. But what if it wasn't the only phone? What if Maren had set the message herself in advance and hidden a second device somewhere it would wake up, find a tower, and deliver her words right on time? The ghost text suddenly had a very human author, Maren herself. They searched again, this time, not for a body, for a second phone. They retraced Maren's route from the bookstore, the wrong turn toward the mountains, mile after mile of dark road, and up a gravel track in a hunting cabin Maren's family had owned for years, a place with no cell signal at all. They found it. A cheap prepaid phone, taped beneath a drawer. Its screen was cracked, but alive, and in the message app, scheduled and waiting, were more words. Words meant for a day that hadn't come yet. The scheduled messages painted a picture no one had wanted to see. Maren hadn't been taken. Maren had left. For 2 months, quietly, carefully, she had built an escape. The strange calls Dell overheard, the questions to Casey about disappearing, the car parked facing the road. The question to her own sister, "How long would you wait before you looked for me?" It had all been preparation. Maren had sunk her own phone in the river so the world would think the worst, so no one would chase her. The message at 9 in the morning wasn't a goodbye from beyond. It was a head start. She had given herself 12 hours to vanish before anyone knew to look. But the messages told them why, and that was the part that broke everyone's heart. For over a year, Maren had been receiving threats from a man she'd dated long before Ellie, a man who had moved away, but never let go. He told her that if she ever tried to leave the state, if she ever tried to start a real life, he would find her. He told her no one would believe her. And he was right that the system had failed her once before, when she tried to report him and nothing happened. Maren didn't run because she was reckless. She ran because she was terrified, and because vanishing felt like the only door left unlocked. It took the detectives 9 more weeks, a bus ticket bought with cash, a grainy camera in a station 2 states away, and finally, a small coastal town in Oregon, where a woman with a new haircut and a quiet job at a flower shop turned around when someone called a name she thought she'd buried. Maren Vale was alive. When her sister walked through that door, neither of them said a word for a long, long time. They just held on. The ghost who texted from the dark had been real all along. She had only been trying to survive. Maren's story ended better than most. The man who'd hunted her was finally charged, this time with the evidence she'd quietly saved. She came home slowly, carefully, on her own terms. But her case left a hard question hanging in the cold mountain air. How many people feel so unprotected, so unheard, that disappearing seems safer than asking for help? And how many of them never get to walk back through the door? Maren got a second chance. So many never do. So here's what I keep coming back to. If Maren hadn't planned every single step, if that one scheduled message hadn't arrived, would anyone have ever known the truth? Or would she have simply become another name on a flyer, fading in a diner window? I want to hear what you think. Do you believe she did the right thing? Tell me in the comments below. And if stories like this stay with you, subscribe and stay a while. There are so many more waiting in the dark.